There are loves that end in screaming. And then there are the ones that end in silence. The kind of silence that sounds like your own name echoing back from an empty space. One you were once allowed to call home. They didn't die. They just stopped returning your gaze. This is the agony that has no funeral. No rituals.
No closure.
No black dresses or shaking hands to grasp. Just the ordinary cruelty of seeing their life go on. Photos posted, laughter shared, memories made. Without the trace of your name on their lips. And it's cruel, isn't it? To be haunted by a living ghost. To mourn someone who still breathes. Who still wears your favorite color. Who might still use your phrases when talking to someone new. But not you. They're alive. Just not in your life. And that is a grief this world doesn't know how to name. What no one tells you is how queer grief, grief born from queer love, is so often hidden behind closed lips and swallowed tears. You weren't allowed to love her out loud, so no one sees you mourning her either. There are no condolences for the breakups that never had Facebook statuses. No flowers sent for the lovers you could only ever call my friend. You loved her in a world that asked you to dim it down, to be careful, to not call too much attention, to not make it weird. So when it ended, when she chose something safer, someone straighter, or just someone that wasn't you, you were left standing in the wreckage of a story no one else even knew existed. And this is where shadow work begins. Because grief, when left unacknowledged, doesn't disappear. It shapeshifts. It buries itself in your nervous system. It curls beneath your skin and teaches your body that connection is dangerous. That wanting is a threat. That abandonment is inevitable. It whispers things you don't even realize you've heard. Like, you weren't enough. You were too much. You should have known better. You loved wrong. But those are not truths. They are echoes. Echoes from the empty places where her absence carved itself into you. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when you hear her name in someone else's mouth and your breath stumbles. Or when your phone lights up and for a split second you forget she's gone. You remember her laugh in the middle of a stranger's sentence. You feel her hands when you're folding laundry. You dream of her apology but wake to silence. This isn't just heartbreak. It's disorientation. It's detachment from your own reality. It's the loss of a version of yourself that only existed in her presence. And that version, the soft one, the open one, the one who let herself be seen, feels harder to find now. You weren't just mourning her. You were mourning who you became when you loved her. And that grief? It's shapeless. It doesn't end cleanly. Because she didn't leave in flames. She left in fragments. One day, she was laughing in your kitchen. The next she was answering less. Then not at all. That slow erosion of intimacy, that is the cruelest kind of ending. Not sudden. Not violent. But quiet. Polite. Disguised as time apart. Branded as just figuring things out. And somehow, you're the one left holding all the questions. Did she ever mean it? Was I the only one who felt that depth? Did I make it up? Why couldn't I be enough to stay for? But here's what they never tell you about healing. It isn't about answers. It's about reclamation. Because even if she doesn't come back, even if she never says your name again, you are still worthy of hearing it spoken with reverence. Even if she forgets the way your eyes looked in the morning light, you still deserve someone who memorizes them like scripture. And no, it's not fair. It's not fair that she gets to live untouched by the wreckage while you rebuild in silence. But even now, beneath the hollow absence of her, there is a heartbeat that still belongs to you. A pulse that says, you are still here. You are still whole. You are still lovable, especially in your longing. This heartbreak is not proof of your failure. It is proof of your capacity to feel deeply, to attach, to care, to risk, to choose softness in a world that begged you to harden. The queer heart that heals doesn't shrink. It expands. And yours, even bruised, is still blooming. There's a strange kind of pain that comes from watching someone you love move on. Not with cruelty, not even with anger, but with silence. With ease. They post a photo, a moment, a smile, and you realize you're no longer the reason behind it. You scan their feed the way you once scanned their face, looking for signs, clues, proof that they're struggling too, but all you find are captions about healing, playlists you're no longer in, and someone else's hand in the corner of the frame. It's not that you want them to suffer. You just want to know you meant something, that the ache you carry wasn't one-sided, that the love you gave didn't vanish the moment it stopped being convenient. But sometimes it does feel that way, doesn't it? Sometimes it feels like you were just a stepping stone on their way to a life they could finally feel proud of. A hidden chapter, a transitional phase, a lesson they got to outgrow. Meanwhile, you're left whispering their name into the void, asking questions the universe won't answer. Why wasn't I enough? Why did she stop trying? Why did I have to be the secret again? Why do I keep ending up as the in-between? You weren't the forever. You were the before. And no matter how much shadow work you do, how many journals you fill, how many soft-spoken podcasts you listen to at 3 a.m., that sting lingers. Because what you lost wasn't just her. It was the future you imagined, the mornings you pictured waking up beside her, the life you were already building in your mind. In queer love, we often build those futures in private. Whispered plans beneath the blankets. Secret dreams shared in hushed tones, away from the world's judgment. So when it ends, you don't just lose the person. You lose the possibility. The one place where you were allowed to believe love might feel safe. And the grief becomes even more disorienting when the world doesn't recognize it. When friends don't understand why you're still holding on. When family never knew she was anything more than a roommate. When coworkers assume you're just being dramatic about a falling out. They don't see the nights you held her through her trauma. They don't know how your hand shook the first time she kissed you and meant it. They weren't there when she made you soup while you sobbed in a hoodie. They didn't hear the late night "I love you" whispered like a confession between fears. You did. And it's not easy to forget those moments, is it? Even when you try to hate her. Even when you delete every photo and block every account. Even when you say, "I'm done," through clenched teeth. She still shows up in the quietest places. In the songs you skip. In the clothes you can't wear anymore. In the foods you avoid because they taste too much like memory. She becomes a ghost that doesn't haunt you violently. She just lingers. Subtle. Soft. A bruise beneath your ribs. But here's where healing begins to shift. Not in forgetting her. Not in pretending she didn't happen. But in reclaiming the parts of yourself that were tied to her name. You see, love often reveals the version of you that you're most afraid to show. The soft one. The trusting one. The child still hoping to be chosen. Finally, when she left, that version of you went into hiding. But she's still there. Still inside you. Still waiting for a safer love to come along. Or maybe waiting for you to become that safer love. Because healing after queer heartbreak isn't about finding someone new to replace what was lost. It's about becoming the kind of person who would never abandon herself the way others have. It's about sitting with the ache instead of numbing it. It's about choosing to stay when every part of you wants to flee. It's about learning that grief doesn't mean weakness. It means you dared to love in a world that tried to shame you for it. You're not broken because she left. You're not unworthy because she didn't choose you. You are grieving. And that is holy. That is sacred. That is the kind of love that doesn't need a witness to be real. There's a particular cruelty in having to unlove someone in real time, while their life continues just a scroll away. While their name still sits in your phone. While their favorite song still autoplays on your drive home. It's not just grief. It's exposure therapy. A daily immersion in what you once had. And now don't. Your brain doesn't understand that it's over, not really. Because there was no explosion. No betrayal you could wrap your rage around. No dramatic ending worthy of storybooks or cinema. Just absence. Gradual. Deliberate. A slow fade that felt like being erased from a photograph while you were still in the room. And what's worse is this. You understand why she left. You understand her trauma. Her fears. Her internalized shame that made loving you a risk she couldn't keep choosing. And that's the hardest heartbreak to heal from. When you can't even hate her. When you still love the parts of her that hurt you. When you still defend her to your own nervous system. She didn't mean it. She was scared. She never got the chance to be safe before. But what about you? Who is defending you? Who is holding the part of you that sat by the phone for hours, refreshing a message that would never come? Who is loving the version of you that asked for reassurance and got met with withdrawal? Who is standing up for the little queer kid inside you, the one who finally thought this is love, only to be left again? Because the body remembers, the nervous system remembers, and your heart, though it tries to be resilient, has its limits. So here's a truth you may not want to hear. It wasn't your job to heal her at the expense of your own breaking. It wasn't your responsibility to prove that queer love is safe by offering yourself as proof while she ran from it. You were not her test. You were not her practice love. You were not her almost. You were real. Your feelings were real. Your tears are real. Your emptiness is real. And in that reality, in that brutal clarity, you begin to reclaim your power. Not by moving on quickly, not by numbing or rushing into the arms of someone else, but by pausing, by sitting in the rubble and saying, I mattered. What we had mattered. And what I need now is me. Because there comes a moment in healing, quiet, barely perceptible, when you stop checking her feed. Not out of anger, but out of fatigue, out of peace. The ache doesn't vanish, but it softens. It stops defining your days. You stop writing love letters in your head. You stop rehearsing imaginary conversations where she finally sees your worth. Instead, you start whispering that worth to yourself. You begin to unspool the codependency, to understand that love rooted in fear can never offer safety, that love born from secrecy will always leave you hungry for visibility, that love where only you fight for survival will eventually become starvation. And so you begin the slow, almost sacred work of rebuilding your boundaries, your softness, your sense of home, not just so someone else can find you, but so you can find you. And isn't that the heart of shadow work? To meet the abandoned parts of yourself where others refuse to go. To offer a hand where once there was only retreat. To say, you are not too much. You are not unlovable. You are not broken because she left. You are whole, especially now. Because mourning someone who still exists isn't just about letting them go. It's about letting go of who you thought you had to be to keep them. It's about shedding the masks you wore to seem easier to love. About unclenching from the chase. About resting in the quiet knowing that the right love, the love aligned with your truth, won't need to be chased at all. And when that day comes, when you look at their photo and don't flinch, when your hands don't tremble at their name, when their memory becomes soft instead of sharp, you'll realize you didn't just survive the heartbreak, you transformed through it. Some wounds never truly close. They become rivers. They carve through you, quietly reshaping the landscape of your heart. And over time you learn how to live beside them, to breathe with them, to let their currents carry grief, but not drown in it. That's what happens with love that ends in silence, with heartbreak that leaves no debris, only a kind of haunted stillness. The world doesn't know how to hold space for this kind of loss, because you have no proof that it happened, only the echo of what she made you feel, and yet what she awakened in you. That was real. You didn't imagine the way she looked at you like you were sacred. You didn't hallucinate the nights she clung to you like you were the only safe place she'd ever known. But here's the unbearable truth. Some people love from their wounds. Some people reach for you in the dark. Not because they're ready to hold you, but because they're afraid to sit with their own emptiness. And when the light comes, when love starts asking for presence instead of just comfort, they disappear. They leave. Or they morph into someone else. They shut the door and tell you it's for your own good. And you're left wondering if you were the problem, if your queerness was too heavy, if your sensitivity was too loud, if your longing, your hope, your hunger to be seen was just too much. But it wasn't. You were never too much. You just handed your heart to someone who didn't know what to do with it, who mistook depth for danger, and tenderness for threat. You, the soft one. You became her mirror, and when she saw herself too clearly in your reflection, it frightened her, because you didn't just love her. You witnessed her. You held the parts she'd spent years trying to bury. And no one teaches us how to receive that kind of love, especially when we've been taught as queer people that love must come with compromise, with hiding, with performance, with the ever-present fear of being left if we're truly seen. So now as you rebuild, as you piece together your nervous system from the aftermath, the work isn't just about healing the heartbreak. It's about challenging the beliefs she left behind. Because maybe you still think love has to hurt a little. That love must be earned. That it's your job to make yourself palatable, quiet, easier to keep. But that's not love. That's survival. Real love, safe love, will not ask you to abandon yourself. It won't recoil when you cry. It won't disappear when you get messy. It won't punish you for needing. It won't make you feel guilty for having a past. And it definitely won't make you question your worth after it ends. So if you're still carrying the lie that this heartbreak defines your value, let it go. If you're still measuring your worth by her ability to stay, release it. She wasn't capable of loving you the way you needed. That doesn't mean you're unlovable. It means she wasn't ready, or willing, or aware of the way her trauma distorted intimacy into a battlefield. And you deserve love that doesn't make you bleed just to feel real. It might take time to believe that, to embody that. Because when you've spent so long attaching your self-worth to being chosen, feels unnatural to choose yourself. But choosing yourself doesn't mean bitterness. It doesn't mean closing off or growing cold or pretending you don't care. It means returning to the sacred relationship that was always waiting underneath the noise, the one between you and you. That's where the healing lies. In the moments you speak to yourself with gentleness. In the decisions you make not from scarcity, but from self-respect. In the quiet mornings when you breathe into your body and realize you survived. Not because you shut down. Not because you moved on quickly. But because you stayed with yourself. Through the silence. Through the ache. Through the terrifying process of becoming whole again without her. You're not mourning her anymore. You're mourning the illusion that you had to be less in order to be loved. And every day you choose yourself. Every boundary, every tear, every breath is a kind of resurrection. Somewhere between the silence she left behind and the stillness you're learning to trust again, you began to rise. Not dramatically, not with fanfare, but gently, like the first breath after sobbing, like light filtering into a room you forgot to enter. Grief taught you many things. How to wait, how to ache without answers, how to sit in the absence and still find your pulse. But healing is teaching you how to return to your voice, to your body, to the queer, complex, tender being you were before she collapsed the ground beneath you. And it's not linear. Some days you'll still hear her laugh in your dreams. You'll wake up and forget for a moment that she's not coming back. You'll pass the coffee shop where she touched your hand under the table, where you both smiled like the world had made a place just for you. But those moments, they stop wounding. They start weaving. They become part of the tapestry, no longer raw, but real. Because you didn't imagine the love. You just outgrew the version of yourself that needed to chase it. You don't have to forget her. That's never been the point. The goal isn't erasure. It's integration. To take the pain she left you with and make art from it. To take the shame she stirred up and plant something in its soil. To take the ache and let it teach you about depth, about longing, about the parts of you still capable of more. And maybe one day, you'll see her again. Maybe in a crowded space. Maybe through a screen. Maybe just in memory. But this time, you won't reach for her. Because you'll be too full of your own presence to beg for hers. You'll feel a quiet ache. Yes, a soft sorrow for what never got to bloom. But you'll also feel something else. Something sturdier. More sacred. You'll feel your wholeness. Because mourning someone who still exists was never just about them. It was about you. About all the pieces you gave away. All the ways you made yourself smaller. All the parts of you she couldn't hold, but that you can now claim. You're not the version of yourself who needed her to validate your worth. You're not the shadow of someone else's silence. You are not the one who is left. You are the one who remains. And that is no small thing. You remained when your heart was splintered. You remained when the world didn't acknowledge your grief. You remained when the old patterns begged you to self-abandon again. But you didn't. You stayed. And from that staying, a new kind of love is born. Not perfect. Not always graceful. But honest. Tender. Revolutionary in its refusal to leave yourself behind. So now when you ask, how do you mourn someone who still exists, just without you? The answer is this. You mourn them by becoming the version of yourself that no longer needs to be chosen to feel whole. You mourn them by feeling every ache and still choosing to stay open. You mourn them by turning your grief into gold, by making your silence into song, by offering your younger self the love she begged the world for. You mourn them by living, not despite them, but beyond them, because you are still here. And that is enough.